Hello classmates, today we will learn about the installation of the yaw drive assembly together. So, when the wind direction changes, how should the wind turbine respond to the wind? Then how is it installed? Get to know it through the content of this class. Before installation, let's first review the composition of the yaw drive assembly and its respective functions. Yaw drive devices are generally composed of drive motors or drive engines, reducer, drive gears, gear clearance adjustment mechanisms, etc. The impeller should be in a state facing the wind at all times so that the wind wheel can absorb wind energy to the greatest extent. The yaw motor is the power source that provides rotational speed and makes the engine room rotate. The cabin achieves the speed and torque requirements through planetary gear reduction during the wind process. Reducers can generally adopt planetary reducers or be connected in series with worm gears and planetary reducers. The drive gear and the yaw bearing gear have a meshing relationship. There are requirements for the gap. Next, let's move on to the installation process of the yaw drive assembly. Then before the actual installation, based on the tool list and component list, it is necessary to confirm that all the tools and components required for the installation process of the drive assembly have been fully prepared. First, assemble the drive, motor reducer, and drive gears. They can be connected by bolt fastening. When the yaw rotation reaches a certain extent, the mooring needs to be unmoored, and the unmooring is achieved by the reverse rotation of the motor. In fact, the yaw motor has the function of forward and reverse rotation. So when wiring the yaw motor, the positive and negative poles must be connected. Otherwise, the forward and reverse rotation would be incorrect. The reducer is a three-stage reducer, which can convert high speed to low speed. Then install the assembled yaw driver into the yaw system. The specific process is as follows. First, select the yaw driver. Second, pre-install the yaw driver. Insert the yaw driver into the motor mounting hole from the upper side of the chassis. Manually rotate the yaw bearing to mesh the yaw gear with the bearing gear. Insert the driver mounting hole completely into the chassis mounting hole. The third step is to check whether the end face of the driver gear is aligned with the end face of the yaw gear bearing. If not aligned, Circ High M2 pre-tightening screw on the pinion of the offset drive needs to be reinstalled. Then adjust the position of the gear end face and lock it. The fourth step is to install the yaw driver. Align the screw holes of the driver with the chassis and prefix them with 8M 2x10 H hexagone socket screws. Slightly pre-tight. The fifth step is to measure the gear clearance with a filler gauge. Manually rotate the yaw bearing to mesh the bearing gear with the pinion of the yaw driver. Insert a feeler gauge into the back clearance of the meshing gear. to ensure that a 0.5 mm drill tooth can be inserted into the gear clearance, while a 0.75 mm feeler gauge cannot. In fact, in large-scale units, the lead pressure method is often used for measurement. Finally, install another yaw driver in the same way as mentioned above. After installing a driver, it is prohibited to manually rotate the yaw bearing. That's all for today's content. Thank you all for watching.